right. Hey there, Knicks fans. Welcome to another edition of the Knicks Film School post-game show, where I, yet again, have forgot to turn on my lights, which is why I'm in darkness here. Powered by our friends at BetUS. We have I actually didn't even refresh my page, so I don't know the final score offhand. 109-97 loss for the Knicks against the Houston Rockets. For anybody who was around for 1994, never great to lose to those guys, especially in Houston, but it is what it is. So annoying loss. Certainly a bit frustrating for a few reasons that we'll get into. I would again echo what I've been saying after all of the losses so far, all three losses so far this year, which is that patience is a virtue. It is game 6 into this process, and I think it can be hard to really abide by that sentiment when you start, well, like in this instance, racked off a couple wins in a row. One was both very nice, very good wins in different ways. So you start to get into this kind of false sense of confidence, like, okay, we figured it out, all is well. And then it makes you feel like, well, if things don't go as well, then someone's doing something wrong. And to be very clear, some folks did some things wrong tonight, and we're going to talk about those things. But this is still a team that is learning how to play with one another, and maybe not as much learning how to play with one another as just figuring out the optimal ways to operate on both ends of the court, but more specifically on offense. And I think that's where I want to start. So we just did the playback watch along. Shout out to everybody who joined us on the Knicks Film School YouTube channel and who watched along with us on playback. And Benji Ridholtz, who did the playback with me and Andrew, was on this from literally the opening tip. And it was the same thing that we saw in the Cleveland game, which is when you have a defense that does not play drop against the Knicks and employs a more switch-heavy coverage, a more aggressive coverage. Certainly, as the game went on, Houston was not hesitant to put 2 on the ball at times. How are you going to beat that? And the Knicks certainly throughout this game, much like was the case in the Cleveland game, they never really found a great flow on the offensive end. And not to say that they didn't make some shots at times, not to say that they didn't have some good possessions at times. They, for a while, were shooting lights out from downtown, ended up only finishing 11 of 28 for 39.3%. That's still pretty good as far as the percentage goes. But again, only 28 shots. So this is now, we are starting to sense some themes. So theme number 1, the ball movement slows down quite a bit when teams switch everything. And number 2, which is a function of number 1, when the ball movement slows down after teams switch a lot, the Knicks do not generate a lot of threes. And that was tough because on the inside of the arc tonight, the Knicks were not particularly good. And their final percentage was they actually shot worse from 2-point range than they did from 3-point range, which is, you would think that that's hard to do. And again, I want to be careful here because I don't want to make it out to be like, oh, New York's offense is broken or they're never going to be able to figure this out. They will figure it out. And I'm going to go right into some of the reasons why I think they will be able to figure it out. One big reason, at least. But like a lot of the shots they missed tonight, I did think were good shots. Now, that being said, much like Cleveland, who had Evan Mobley out there kind of disrupting everything, even when the Cavs were switching and he was always kind of lurking. The thing with Houston is, for as much as they do have leave a target out there a lot in Alperen Sengun, and the Knicks, I thought, did at times a nice job of trying to bring him into actions and take advantage of that matchup, they don't offer any other soft spots. Like Dylan Brooks is a brick wall. Fred VanVleet's been, I don't know how many, I don't think he's made all defense, but or maybe he's made one or so, but he's as good a defensive guard as you're going to find at his height at the very least. And then in, I always get the Thompson kids mixed up. They're Thompson that they have, not Detroit's Thompson. They're Thompson. And that was probably, if we're going to just go right to the most frustrating part of tonight, Amen Thompson. Thank you, Kevin. The most frustrating, and I didn't even mention Jabari Smith Jr. He's a good defender. Tari Eason, my God, what an impact. Tari Eason only scored 7 points tonight. What an impact he had on this game tonight. And so, yeah, like the frustrating part tonight is as the game was winding down, you had Amen Thompson there, and Jalen Brunson was going at that matchup as if it was a mismatch. And you saw on some possessions when they would display more patience and where they would work it around and like continue to screen and continue to force the Rockets into difficult decisions about, okay, either we're going to, force Sengun to guard, Jalen Brunson, or we're going to put 2 on the ball. Like, good stuff happened when they did that, oftentimes involving Josh Hart as the screener. I thought Josh Hart had an excellent game tonight. Not a perfect game. Nobody had a really great game for the Knicks tonight. OG Anunoby was probably the best Knick, and he was very good. But even like they tried to put him on Sengun. We're going to talk about the other end of the floor in a bit. They tried to put them on Sengun, and it just was like a non-starter. It didn't go very well in the traditional coverage. Talk more on that in a bit. But OG was great for the most part, and Josh Hart was really good. But Jalen Brunson, I thought, honestly, I know he ended up with, what did he finish with? 29 points on 24 shots. Okay, sounds okay. Eight assists, no turnovers. Ended up with 1 turnover. It was at the very end. I'm not even counting that. His decision-making for different parts of this game, but especially down the stretch, challenging one-on-one in which, it felt unnecessary. Felt like if you work the ball more, you're going to be able to get better stuff, even as the Rockets were switching a lot. And again, much like the Cleveland game, when teams switch, and this is maybe the third big takeaway, Karl-Anthony Towns is the one who seems not to get the shots. Now, is part of that because of who the Rockets were guarding him with and the fact that the Knicks did not feel that that was as good of a, or like it was, it's almost as if the Rockets were already conceding the mismatch up front and they were comfortable with it. And the Knicks looked at that and said, well, all right, we're going to go elsewhere. It was a weird thing, right? And like, I thought Towns, was obviously exceptional on the boards tonight, finished with 19 rebounds overall, including 9 on the offensive glass. I thought he really responded to what was not a great first half, and I thought he came back in a big way in the second half. Again, not perfect, made some mistakes for sure, but had some really nice moments, and I thought he really showed me something in the second half tonight. So I'm not putting this one on Towns. I honestly, I'm not putting this on anyone. For as much as I think Brunson did not have a particularly good game and did not do a great job as the floor general, making sure the Knicks got good shots down the stretch. Like, nobody was bad, like really bad in this game, at least amongst the starters. But nobody was great. They needed someone to step up and have like a really great game, ideally multiple guys. The one guy I haven't mentioned is Mikal Bridges. Maybe he's the closest one of the 4-star or the 5 starters that had a poor game. Again, this is a little bit of a theme already so far this season. Bridges' one-on-one defense, his ability to, navigate screens and stick with guys. Couple nice moments tonight, couple not so nice moments tonight. So you didn't really feel him on defense, and then offensively, he was 6 of 14 from the field. 3 of 8 from deep. Like, and a lot of good looks in there. Looks you hope that he makes. Didn't go down. He threw probably the worst pass I've seen a Knick throw this year on a turnover in, I think it was the fourth quarter. I'm not even sure. It was definitely the second half, towards the end of the game. And that was really very frustrating. But all that stuff that I'm talking about on the offensive end, like, to say that I have no doubt in my mind they're going to figure all that stuff, zero doubt. They're going to figure all that stuff out. That's why I'm like, this is a patience loss. This is a give it some time loss. They will figure out how to exploit defenses like Houston. Give Houston all the credit in the world. Houston came to play tonight. I thought they played an exceptional game, and that is even with them being unable to hit the far side of a barn from deep. They finished 8 of 33, made some big ones late, but still, like, That's probably the most frustrating part of tonight. Is the Knicks got a team that for much of this night was not shooting even 20% from three, and they couldn't figure out a way to win. That's the frustrating part. But give Houston all the credit. They played really well. They're a very well coached team. Not perfect, but very, very well coached. And so that's the offense. On the defense, Knicks didn't play that bad. You know, Fred VanVleet was going off early. I thought the Knicks were doing what they could against him. He was hitting some crazy shots. You know, you tip your cap to some extent. And then it was Sengun. And then it's like, what do? You go with Cat? You go with the size? Do you go with OG? Neither of those were working particularly well. So then it comes down to, all right, well, then you got to double. And the Knicks are that like they double less than probably any team in the league. Doesn't mean they shouldn't. Doesn't mean they can't. It means, again, it's early in the season, and I'm not sure that they're at that level where, and we saw there was one, and when the Knicks double at times, it's funny how often you see this because it's not what they do often. Something gets botched. So like that the completely uncontested, I think it was an Amen Thompson dunk down the middle of the lane in the fourth quarter there. That came off a double when it was like, why are you doubling? You know, there are other times where there's an obvious switch that they don't make. I know there was one in the fourth quarter that resulted in open Dylan Brooks. I'm pretty sure it was Dylan Brooks 3 that he made. But again, that was, I think, between either Bridges. It was between two of the wings, you know? So again, there are kinks that they need to work out on offense. Certainly kinks you got to work out on defense. But the thing with defense is like, you are always going to have the personnel issues that you have. Tonight, it manifested itself in a way that we have not seen and we may not see again this year in an opposing center just going at Towns, posting up time after time after time after time. He's got to be a little bit better for sure. Like, don't let the guy get to his right hand. Would be way number one. But again, he'll live and he'll learn, and they will live and they'll learn, and they'll figure some stuff out. Again, I'm not going crazy about any of that. Let's talk about the bench because I have a feeling that that's what's probably going to dominate the conversation. Jericho Sims, if I was going to wager donut on what most of the super chats are going to be about tonight, I would wager it's about Jericho Sims. Jericho Sims played 16 minutes tonight. What was he? You want to know again, I've said this for years. Game to game plus minus. Not that it's always worthless. It is often worthless. And if you want to look tonight, plus 14, Jalen Brunson, team high. It is not representative of how he played. Was he the reason they lost? No. He was not the reason they lost, which is why, for as much attention as he's going to get, it's not really deserved. Made a couple plays, made a couple nice plays, made far more worse plays. And I think right now with Sims, it is the backup quarterback situation where it's like the backup quarterback for a guy who's not playing well is always going to be the most popular guy in town. We've seen Huck Porty a little bit. We've seen Huck Porty enough to think like, hey, that guy could do some things. Why don't we maybe see him? Tibbs, you know how he's going to be. He's going to give the veteran guy enough rope to strangle himself. Now, have we gotten to that point with Sims yet? It felt like we were getting pretty close at times tonight. But again, it's game 6. Are we there yet? I don't know. Is it why they lost the game tonight? I don't think it's why they lost the game tonight. I think there were some other things that the Knicks did not do and could have done that they did not do, and that they allowed the Rockets to do that were bigger issues. But when you have a situation like you have now and it stands out, it stands out. So that's that. McBride has his by far worst game of the season, 0 for 9 from the field, 0 for 5 from 3. You want to look at that as a little bit of an equalizer to the fact that the Rockets weren't hitting shots because McBride's been much better, obviously, from deep all year. That's fine. A couple of those threes goes down. You know what this felt like? This felt like a game if the Knicks could actually take the lead they might actually win this thing, and they could never get over the hump. And they had some looks. They had some opportunities, but they could never get there. But that's not on McBride. That's on, that's on everybody. And then Tyler Kolek. We got a little Tyler Kolek in the first half. Hit a shot, didn't touch the ball for about 4.5 minutes. I thought he looked okay. It's hard to tell. He had like 2 possessions where he actually did a thing. Made a really nice pass, hit a nice shot. Good for him. I guess the last thing, and this is also going to be a topic of conversation, is the minutes. Jalen Brunson played the entire second half. Mikal Bridges played the entire second half. OG Anunoby ended up playing 40 minutes. I mean, Josh Hart played 38 minutes, but who cares? That's fine. And then Towns was the only one that played less than that. He played 32, but that's partially because he was in foul trouble in the first half. It's a lot of minutes. It's a lot of minutes for the 6th game of the season. If you want to yell and scream about it, I'm obviously not, as you can tell by the fact that I've been talking for 17 minutes and the first time I'm mentioning it, does not going to elicit that kind of response from me. But if you want to yell and scream, have at it. I'm not gonna put you down. It's a lot of minutes. It's a lot of minutes for any game in an NBA season. It's a lot of minutes for Game 6 in particular. But they are thin. No Mitch, no Achua, no Shamet, no campaign. Tibbs has 6 guys that he trusts. And that's tough to win basketball games that way. So I don't know what they're going to do. Obviously, they converted Huck Porty today. We have the reported signing of Matt Ryan. Is Matt Ryan the answer here? Is Matt Ryan going to come in and play significant minutes for them and be able to give some of these wings a rest? I don't know. But they need to get healthy, and they need to get healthy sooner rather than later, because I agree with anybody who says that ultimately this is not sustainable. I totally agree with that. It is not sustainable. But they've had a lot of rest early in the season. This was only their 6th game. They've played whatever it's been, 6 games in 13 days? No, it's been more than that. I don't know. Whatever it's been. They have not played a ton of basketball. They've played as few games as anybody in the league. So, maybe the guys were rested and they felt like they could go. But that's basically that. I don't really have anything else to say about this game. I thought they came back in the second half and really, they made the push at the end of the first half. I thought they made a push in the second half. They got themselves back in the game. But, I guess maybe the one thing I haven't mentioned, they came out at the start and it's just like the requisite energy level, the requisite energy was not quite there. And maybe that's really the first thing I should have said. And maybe that's the most important thing that could have been said. Before we get to Super Chats and BetUS, I will do the autograph signature moment of the game. Couple of contenders. I will go. I thought there was a possession early on in the fourth quarter that got them to within 3, made it 87-84, where Jalen Brunson made a really nice defensive play. He actually made multiple nice defensive efforts on the same possession, forced the turnover. Josh Hart got it to Karl-Anthony Towns on the post. Just a great 2-way sequence in a game that did not have a ton of great 2-way sequences. But that, again, brought the Knicks to within 3. I think it was the closest they were, since the opening minutes. And we'll give that our autograph signature moment of the game. Again, go over and download the autograph app. If you are on there, went on today, you would have seen my 3x3 segment where I look back at 3 things from the previous week and look ahead to 3 things from the week ahead. Funny enough, on the aforementioned autograph segment today, I posited who's going to win between the battle of the rebounds. Houston Rockets, exceptional offensive rebounding team. Knicks, 5th best defensive rebounding team by percentage in the league this year. How did that turn out? After getting destroyed on the boards early, Rockets only ended up with 11 offensive rebounds. It's still more than you like, but it's you could live with that. The bigger issue, 39 defensive rebounds for the Rockets, but then again, that's because the Knicks took a lot of shots and missed a lot of shots. So I guess maybe 50-39 rebounding edge, not the end of the world when you put it into context, but that was that. Okay, let us move on to betting and sweating. presented by our friends at BetUS, which of course means that I need to go now pull up what I'm going to say about BetUS because they are our good friends and we want to make sure we give them the appropriate shout out. If you want to get the betting and sweating picks up for tonight, Kevin, here we go. I got it. Took me a second, but I got it. Okay. So, if you're looking for a new book this basketball season, BetUS, of course, is the answer. Fastest payouts in the industry. Use that YouTube code or promo code YouTube150, 150% bonus on your first deposit, 125% bonus on your next two after that, up to $2,000. They got the best deposit withdrawal process, 24/7 personalized service, 10% back on your net losses twice a year, betting variety, personal account manager. And of course, you can check out the BetUS link in the description of this episode below. What did Andrew Claudio give us tonight? He gave us a couple things. So Josh Hart is that plus 11 rebounds, which I'm assuming by the tone of your voice that he missed. Yes, missed by a bit. He had 4 rebounds. Karl-Anthony Towns, 38 or more points, rebounds, and assists. So he had 19 rebounds, 17 points. So that's 36. No assists. Oh, my God. If you would have said Towns gets 19 rebounds and doesn't get to 38 points, rebounds, and assists, you would have fainted. And then 2 or more steals for OG Anunoby. OG Anunoby ended up with 1 steal. So not the best night for Andrew Claudio, but that's okay. We love you, Andrew. You did it. I see where you were going, and again, you deserve half a credit for the Towns loss. One more time, that promo code YouTube150 for your 150% bonus on your first deposit, 125% bonus on the next 2 up to $2,000. Reminder, disclaimer. Gambling involves risks. Only gamble with funds you have to lose. All forms of betting carry financial risk. It is down to the individual. Make bets with or without the assistance of the information provided. Kevin, thoughts before we get to the super chats?
Yeah, tough one. You know, I agree that, there's still certain things this team has to get together and they have to figure certain things out. The Brunson stuff is like, yeah, sure, but we've seen him make a lot of these shots, and we're not really complaining then.
Like, I hope I didn't come off like I was worried about Jalen Brunson, or even that I was like trying to kill Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson has a lifetime pass. Like full stop. Like Jalen Brunson, it's not that he could do no wrong, but like he's like we're gonna roll with him no matter what. But it is also okay to point out when he could have a better game because he can, Yeah,
some of the decisions like it didn't have to go ISO so crazy like every possession at a certain point down the stretch. But I want to see what the next slide is. We're not doing that, but we are. Nope.
Oh yeah. Okay.
That's later.
Oh, okay.
That's later.
All right. So we're moving on.
Rolling on to the supers.
Let's do it. Hopefully I'm here. Okay, there we go. Robert W. Cross starts us off tonight. It's the first time you've started off a post game, I think, this year, Robert. So I'm sure you're in a bit of a frustrated mood, but hopefully not too down. Very difficult to win this game with no contributions from the bench. Sims needs to sit. He doesn't have it, never will. Well, as I predicted, a lot of the commentary is going to be about Jericho Sims. I genuinely do feel bad for him because this is a guy that we're talking about that I think we all got. He's really, honestly, he's kind of a victim of his own competence because you draft someone 58th and you don't expect that. You don't expect a guy drafted 58th to be an NBA player. And he came in kind of as a rookie, but more as a second-year guy, especially. And he looked like, oh God, this guy's an NBA player. He's a real NBA player. We got someone with 58th pick in the draft. And I think once he set the bar at that point, that high, like that's it, And now he hasn't progressed. And you could argue he has maybe regressed a little bit. I don't know if I would make that argument. I just think more is expected of him. And he has not lived up to that. And maybe it's because, like, look, this guy was a 4-year player in college. He came out, he was older. The book on him was like, yeah, he could do some stuff, but this guy is what he is. And lo and behold, here we are 4 years later, and he's like, kind of the guy we first saw. And that's what, let's see, maybe Huck could do a little bit more. Thanks, Robert. Deadwords 604. JB did a little bit too much hero ball at the end, but they seemed off most of the night. Also, launch Sims to the moon, please and thank you. I didn't feel like we ever saw the Knicks get into a groove. There was never. They had one run. They had one run at the end of the first half where it ended up being a 10-0 run where, and that was spurred, I thought, by their defense. They had some threes. But even during that 10-0 run, I never was like, oh, we're turning the corner. It never felt like they're turning the corner. And they came out, I don't want to say they came out flat, but it was like there was a lack of crispness. There was a lack of purpose, like the purpose that we've seen in some of the games that they played. They did not have it in this game. And again, credit to the Rockets for that, but yeah. Thanks, Edwards. Hush, Sue, what's going on, Hush? Brunson's decision-making has been so infuriating. Oh, my goodness. Infuriating. Getting at the $5 word for this one. No reason to be taking every single shot in the clutch. Literally, we have other players for a reason. So here's the thing. I don't mind taking Jalen Brunson taking every single shot in the clutch. In fact, if you're asking me right now who should take more clutch shots, who should take the most clutch shots in the NBA for the rest of the year on a permanent basis, I am absolutely, without question, going to say Jalen Brunson. That said, let them be good shots. And when you go out and you go and get Karl-Anthony Towns and you get Mikal Bridges and you get OG Anunoby, and yes, when you have Josh Hart, and who is one of the smartest, like when you talk about his screening, his screen and dot, like how much good stuff. And Ben, again, I'm repeating what Benji said during the playback. Good stuff always seems to happen when Josh Hart screens. Opens up something, he dives, he makes a play 4-on-3, whatever the case is. Good stuff happens in those situations. And at times, Brunson called Josh Hart up to screen. And like when you have all those guys who could do all these different things, we're talking about this Knicks offense, we're talking about 5 guys who could, hit threes and make plays with the ball and score in a variety of ways and could pass and all this stuff. There's no need to do it all yourself. So it's not that he's taking all the shots. It's the shots are almost unnecessarily difficult. And that is they will not be in time. That will get better. That will improve. I think infuriating is a bit strong of a word for a guy who, like, again, lifetime pass. But I great power comes with responsibility. Thanks, Hush. Kevin Danishevsky, what's going on, Kev? Need to shoot more threes. 28, no bueno. In my opinion, a lot of it is on Jalen. Needs to pull more, find Towns and pick and pops for 3. Teams guarding for threes, but you need to hunt it. So we talked about this a little bit on halftime. I don't think teams want Towns shooting threes. I don't think they want him getting into a groove. I don't think they want him getting good open looks from 3. And I think the Rockets played for that. I thought your point on halftime, Kevin, which is that Jalen Brunson was not shooting threes. Brunson tonight. So here are the 3-point totals. Bridges shot 8. That's fine. OG 5 for 6 from 3. Man, where would they have been in this game if OG Anunoby didn't hit all those threes? 6 threes for OG Anunoby, fine. 2 threes for Josh Hart, fine. 4 threes for Brunson. He was 2 of 4. Not enough. And then obviously 2 threes for Towns is the real dagger. McBride, 5 threes in 26 minutes. That's fine. It's just Towns and Brunson. Those are the two guys you want taking more threes, and Towns in general, 17 shots, which is like, Knicks only took 88 shots in this game. So in that context, 17 for Towns is not the end of the world. It's better than 7. But again, it's how do you generate those threes if teams are going to switch everything? And it's just, it's more movement, it's more passing, and it's less one-on-one. For sure. Thanks, Kev. Juanon. I love it already. I see it. I see the vision, and I see your super chat. 20 games, 20 games, 20 games. Also, at what point tonight, tomorrow, during Tibbs' rewatch, is he going to realize Sims is not a rotational big? I kid. He knows. Hashtag fire Tibbs. Hashtag 20 games. Hashtag patience. Yeah, I mean, look, you're preaching to the choir here. It's why, I caught some shit for picking 2-2 when Jeremy took 3-1 this week. Again, I hope Jeremy wins. I hope they go 3-1 from here, and they certainly can. They should absolutely beat the Hawks. We'll see what's up with Milwaukee. Dame seems to have found something, and if Giannis plays on Friday, that's how, I know how the Bucks have played. I know they're 1-6. That's not going to be an easy game if both of those guys play. And then you got the Pacers. So we'll see how the rest of this week goes. You'd like to go at least 2-1. 3-1 certainly, or 3-0 certainly from here on in this week is certainly on the table. But like whatever it is, it is. I'm not going to say that I'm not concerned about the record in the first 20 games, especially, but like if it's not as good as people want, like again, what 12-8. Like I'm sure people are not going to be thrilled with 12-8. If it's 12-8, you know what? Honestly, in the way the East is shaping up, and again, I'm not saying that that's what they're going to be or that's what they should be. But if that's the case, like, look at the East. Look at how some of these other teams are doing. So, it would not be the end of the world. And then as far as Sims goes, might just be a matter of time. Thanks, Juno. Colin Reardon, what's going on, Colin? Karl-Anthony Towns, Huckporty minutes, ? Senjun got whatever he wanted. I mean, it's asking a lot of a rookie to come in and handle a guy who offensively is without question an all-star level player. The guy almost made the all-star team last year. And he's really good. Like Senjun is the real deal. He is, other than Jokic and Embiid, in terms of a back to the basket guy. And honestly, he might be better than, as a back to the basket guy specifically, he probably is better than Embiid. Because Embiid, that's not what Embiid wants to do. Embiid wants to like hang around in the short mid-range and even the long mid-range and shoot all that stuff. Like that's what Embiid wants to do. But Senjun is like, he is as old school as it gets. Like it's Jokic and him, really, those two guys. So, he's a bear. To throw a rookie in the fire against that, I don't know. I don't know how fair that would have been, but and also, again, and someone had a good comment during the playback where they were like, because there's always talk about when Mitch comes, like this would have been a Mitch game and this and that. I made my opinion on like the long-term vision of this team very clear. They have to figure out the cat at center stuff. Not to say, and this was the point that the person made, that can't be used. It's a changeup, It's an off-speed pitch or whatever. Obviously not the best with baseball analogies, but it's something different. It's a different look. I agree. Putting a center next to Towns, whether it's Sims or Porty or Mitch or Precious or whoever, doesn't really matter. It's a different look. I'm happy that they are trying to figure out how to attack or how to survive, really thrive, ideally, defensively with Towns at center, because in the playoffs, that's what they're going to have to do. There's just zero question in my mind. This team wants to win a championship, figure it out. So they're figuring it out. Thanks, Colin. Hush Zoo. Cat getting 2 shot attempts in the fourth quarter. Unacceptable. Yeah, it's not ideal. Guy's been really good. He was awesome in Miami, awesome in a different way in Detroit. Yeah, obviously nobody needed to play in the fourth quarter in Detroit, but you got to figure out how to, like, it is not impossible to. There is no such thing as a defense with this amount of offensive talent on the floor. There's no such thing as a defense being able to take away Karl-Anthony Towns. It is about finding your way through the maze and figuring out the ways to exploit him, and whether it's him getting shots or him forcing the hand of the defense and getting other guys good shots. It doesn't really matter. I don't care which it is. Karl-Anthony Towns could take no shots in a fourth quarter and still dominate a game, or still dominate the fourth quarter. That's how good he is. That's how transformational of an offensive player he is. But that wasn't the case tonight. He doesn't need to shoot. Like, he could dominate a game without shooting. It's kind of like Jokic, except Jokic does it with some of the most spectacular passes you'll ever see. Towns does it more just with his gravity, and he can pass a little bit too. Thanks, Hush. Haitian Ferg, what's going on, Haitian? JB killed us forcing the issue at the basket. Listen, it's not often that Haitian comes in hot, so if he's coming in hot, someone has earned it. The refs made it clear from the jump, no layups. Yeah. Cat should have been featured in the fourth. Not enough ball movement. OG and Macau were just chilling in the corners watching. Yeah, I mean, look, I went through the shot attempts. A lot of those were not, obviously the fourth quarter was not the best in terms of those shot attempts, but I agree. You got to make use of that's the best teams, or the teams that, when you make these all-in trades, you make these big plays and you assemble these teams with all this talent. The teams that it works for, they figure out how to make the talent, like their talent, make the other talent better. Everybody amplifies everybody else. We haven't really seen that yet, other than the Detroit game for the Knicks, and that was against a Pistons team that was kicking the ball around. So you got to figure out how everybody on the floor can make everybody else on the floor better, or at least more dangerous. And nobody did a very good job of that tonight. And Brunson, if you want to say he did a poor job of that tonight, that's totally fine. Again, I think the standard has become so high with him. It's ridiculous how high the standard is, but that's what it is. Thanks, Haitian. Another one with Haitian. Done with Sims. Haitian's he's hot. Man, I don't know if I've ever heard you this way, Haitian Ferg. I forgive Deuce. He had a bum night. I know he'll bounce back. JB needs to get comfortable giving the ball up against a heavy, switch heavy defense. Yeah, or just work it more. It's not about, like, here's the other thing. I want to be very clear about this. I'm not coming at you, Haitian, but this is pretty obvious. If the defense just gets the ball out of Jalen Brunson's hands, that's a win for the defense. Like, that's every head coach in the NBA, if given 2 options, and option 1 is you're taking the ball out of Jalen Brunson's hands, or option 2 is blank. They don't even know what blank is, and they're going to pick option A over blank. It doesn't matter what blank is. Option A, I get to take the ball out of Jalen Brunson's hands. Sign me up for that. I don't care what the alternative is. Sign me up for that. It is about him using his gravity and his offensive talents. Just like I've talked, we talk about Towns' offensive talents. It's about Brunson using his offensive talents and making and bending teams to his will. If he didn't have the teammates, he wouldn't be able to do that. He has the teammates. And he just didn't do a good enough job of utilizing those teammates tonight. Thanks, Haitian. Kevin O. Peterson. What's going on, Kev? Don't deserve to win when you get 3 points from the bench. It's tough. Tibbs is going to have to start playing Hukporti over Sims a lot sooner than he likely planned. I think that makes it probably tonight so far maybe better than 50-50 ratio in terms of comments that are about Sims versus comments that are not about Sims. And I can't blame anybody. It popped. It popped in all the ways you're not supposed to pop. That Sims was poor. Again, did a couple of decent things. He is absolutely a third string big. And it's like you know what he probably is in the NBA? On a decent team, he's probably like, okay, your starting center gets in foul trouble, and then your backup comes in and like stubs his toe and has to go and sit for a bit or get taped up or whatever. All right, Jericho, you need you to come in and just string together 7 possessions here, and then we'll call you next Tuesday. That's kind of probably what he is at this point, and it's unfortunate because like the kid seems like a great kid and he's a hard worker and he's dealt with injuries throughout his career, and it's unfortunate, but it's not going great right now. It's not going great. Thanks, Kev. Manny Campos, what's going on, Manny? This game put all of our weaknesses on display. That's one way to look at it. I didn't think about it like that. I think that's pretty fair. Yeah. No bench. Cat, terrible defense and bad fouls. Not enough flow on offense. Sims plus 14 is a joke. Yeah. Man, I do I really want to defend Cat's defense? It was bad. It was not good. It was bad. I just feel bad because he's a limited defender. At the same time, he's not a small man, and you would like to see him at times, use his size a little bit better. And he did not use his size well at all tonight. And he did have some silly fouls. See, I can't disagree with any of that, Manny. That's fine. I like the way you put it. But but again, they know, like there's no guesswork here about, are these weaknesses? Like, yeah, but these are the weaknesses. You have the whole season to work them out, and that's why I feel pretty good. I'm not bummed about tonight. It's annoying, but I'm not bummed about tonight. Thanks, Manny. John Leary, what's going on, John? Not a minutes please guy, but a 7-man rotation in game 6. 3 guys, 40+ minutes. Worried about burnout. Thanks. Again, I told you I'm not getting on anybody who says that. Like, just logically, you cannot keep this up for the whole season. At the same time, you're not going to need all of your guys to play, or that many guys to play 40 minutes in every game. A lot of games are going to be like Detroit, where you don't have to play the guys as many minutes. Now, what happens if Wednesday's game is closer than expected? Like, how's that going to go? I don't know. The Knicks play every other day now for a little while. Now, they don't have a back-to-back for a while. Their first back-to-back is not until middle of November. We'll look it up right now. First back-to-back is next week, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then they have another one Sunday, Monday, but that's at home. There's actually a little bit of travel on the first back-to-back going from Philadelphia to home. So that's not as big of a deal. But yeah, I mean, I'm just looking for the rest. Yeah, those are actually the only 2 back-to-backs before the in-season tournament. So, like, the Knicks actually do have a pretty spaced out schedule until the in-season tournament, and then you get to play 2 games in 10 days. So maybe, again, I mentioned this on a previous post-game show. I feel bad repeating myself, but you can look at their schedule and say, all right, if there is a situation where a team would be able to go a little bit harder in the first 20 games, you could argue that it's this team with, again, they're decimated by injuries and the games are pretty well spaced out. So thanks, John. Hush Zoo. I got to say, McCall's defense has been a bit lackluster. Seems like he hasn't been playing physical as a point of attack defender. Fred VanVleet kind of got everything he wanted. VanVleet made some really good shots. I didn't think Bridges defended particularly well tonight. And in general this season, I would agree with you that Bridges' defense has been underwhelming. I think you need him as a point of attack defender. Because if you get him playing to his capability as a point of attack defender, it kind of changes everything else that you do. And then if he's able to hold that up, then you get OG. And OG, I wrote down 3 times in my notes tonight how he outstanding, not good, outstanding help defense that OG Anunoby had. And that's for like OG's a great defender across the board, but when he's able to make plays and help, it's a game changer. And so if McCall could hold up his end of the bargain and he got OG and help, and then you got Josh Hart like kind of sneaking in there and ducking like as your third guy, then that's where it's really good. But it does start at the top with Bridges, and I agree he has not been great. It's frustrating to say because like we all want to love Bridges, and I do like him a lot, but we could play a little bit better. Thanks, Hush. Tingus Pingus. What's going on, Tingus? Too much hero ball from JB. Yep. Amen had him in jail in the fourth quarter. Brunson needs to aggressively hunt switches and stop settling. The bench, other than Deuce, is garbage. Right now it is because they're all hurt. Again, their 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th men are all injured. How many other teams around the NBA could say that? There's a couple of banged up teams in the league. One of them, the New Orleans Pelicans, lost again tonight. They lost the Blazers. So there are other teams that are really feeling injuries. I know, obviously, the Sixers, that should go without saying. They're playing right now in Phoenix. They're in a close game. So the Knicks aren't the only team beset by injuries. Like, injuries are happening all over the place. And they have their starters and they have their 6-man. So you feel bad complaining, but you're also not wrong. As far as Brunson needing to aggressively hunt switches, he needs to aggressively make the defense make difficult choices. And I think there were far too many possessions tonight where he didn't make the Rockets make any difficult choices. And again, that when you have the offensive talent around you that he has, that is, I don't want to go too hard here. That's not ideal. It's not ideal. Thanks, Tingus Pingus. Appreciate you. Robert Cross with another one. It's first time, long time. It's your boy, John. A game where the Knicks could have used Mitchell Robinson. Okay. Would have gobbled up some offensive rebounds, although the guy who the Knicks are currently starting at center did get 9 offensive rebounds. That's pretty good. I know a lot of those were, obviously I'm talking about talent, a lot of those were on his own misses, but like 9 offensive rebounds for your starting center, Mitch isn't going to do that much better than that. Defensively, I think he would have helped on Senjun. Do I think he would have been like the answer? I don't know. And like, I don't know. It's weird. I've always been a Mitch fan. I like Mitch. I like the fact that he's been here for so long. I think that's meaningful. I'm finding myself every time he gets brought up thinking that why are we going backwards? And that's not the right way to think about it, because as I just said, putting Mitch in the game, it's a change up. It's a different look. And I think that could be incredibly valuable. And I do think that there are moments where He can and should play with Towns. And if he was healthy, like I'm sure they would have had some time with him there in the fourth quarter, even with Towns in the game. I'm just like, I'm all in on them figuring out how to make it work with Towns at the 5, because that is how they win a championship. And that's what I care about at this point, So, yeah. Thanks, Robert. Vas Callow. What's going on, Vas? 6th game of the season. Long way to go. But, always a but. Brunson forced a lot of stupid shots in the fourth quarter, needs to make better decisions down the stretch. We need to clone Josh Hart. He does it all out there. Hashtag let's go Knicks. Well, I am pretty sure that there are certain people out there who, if you clone Josh Hart and you gave this team another Josh Hart, that would be their nightmare. It is certainly not mine. I thought Josh Hart was very good tonight. I love everything, especially after halftime. I thought he was exceptional in the second half of this game. His energy, his timeliness, his movement. It is just amazing, truly amazing, what a non-shooter, and he's not really a non-shooter. We know he's not a non-shooter, but like a guy who's not a great shooter, it's amazing how he could still open up an offense. And he does it so well. He's so smart about it. And it just, whenever he's getting involved in offensive plays, it feels like good stuff happens. And in defense, obviously, he does his fair share as well. So, thanks, Fast. Kevin Danishevsky with another one. Thank you, Kevin. Y'all see why I want Eason now. Nobody, come on. Straw man. No one, if anyone ever said to you, I don't want Tari Eason as a Knick, then that's silly. I think the thing was always about the price to get him. And why would you used to give him up? The guy's perfect 7th man, 8th man, whatever he is, on a good team. I'd love that dude on the Knicks. But why the hell would you used to give him up? He's not giving him up. Dude's a monster. Imagine him off our bench right now. Woo-wee. Precious Washington pick. 30 swap, in my opinion, gets it done. Precious. The fake Washington first. It's going to be 2 seconds. And a pick swap, a first-round pick swap in 2030. Man. I don't know. Do you do that if you... I mean, I know Houston has all these kids and they can't keep everybody, and they just gave a lot of money to 2 of their guys, and they're probably going to have more money to spend this offseason because... although, actually, no. Maybe they won't have money to spend this offseason now that they extended those 2 guys. I haven't even actually updated myself on that. That's a bad job by me. Either way, they're very expensive. And maybe they feel like they can't pay him. I don't know. But, can he stay healthy? You gonna give up a ton for a guy who's had some issues staying healthy? I don't know. And again, Knicks defense wasn't up to the task tonight, but you could use that to your advantage because that guy's not really a shooter. And actually, the Knicks did exploit Houston's non-shooters, I thought, pretty well tonight. So, yeah. Anyway, thanks, Kev. Hush Zoo, I hope during this process they could somehow find a way to get Brunson more off-ball looks. He's such an elite catch-and-shoot player. Very annoying game. Yeah, and, DJ's been all over this since the cat trade. Really, since before that. Because Julius was so good at getting him good looks, and he hasn't really gotten those. So how... And that it goes back to Towns. How can Towns' gravity... and the Towns-Brunson 2-man game, we've seen that open up a lot of good stuff for the Knicks. We have not really seen it open up a ton of threes for Jalen Brunson on good catch and shoots. There's been some for sure, but it feels like you want more, and that's fair. We should get more. Certainly wasn't enough tonight. But again, give credit to the Rockets defense. Hush Zoo, can't wait for Precious. He's sorely missed. Yeah. I would like Precious Drew back, but The notion again that I have to go back to this. The notion that they lost this game because Jericho Sims was out there and not Precious Achiuwa, I think there were bigger picture issues. And for as much as it's tough to hear everybody critiquing Jalen Brunson, because like you feel bad because he's Jalen Brunson. Like that really was the bigger thing. And it wasn't just him. It was the Knicks' entire offense not doing a great job against Houston's switching defense. How do you figure that out? What do you do? What do you do to figure that out? That's the big takeaway. And to a lesser extent, the defense and figuring out how to, handle a guy like Sejun. Thanks, Hush. Sam L. Not to blame the refs guy. Just kidding. I am. But it seemed like the Rockets were allowed to play physical and the Knicks weren't most of the game. Rockets were allowed to play physical. A couple of calls that were not great, or non-calls that were not great. I thought the Knicks got the shittier whistle for sure. Could have won the game. When the refs steal a game from you like they did in Houston last year, I'll huff and puff more. I can't get that energy up as much tonight. Thanks, Sam. As the freaking Pacers are about to win a game in Dallas. That's disappointing. Hussu, positives. OG has been really awesome. What is OG Anunoby shooting from 3 now? Like, he started off cold, and he's like not missing anymore, which is, again, why it's frustrating that it did not result in a win. He's been great. He's been great. He's been a really solid player for them. I would say from the start of the year to now, I would give Josh. I think Josh Hart has been their best overall player. Or let me rephrase that. He's been their most consistent player. OG's pretty close. Thanks, Hush. CC Kirby, what's going on, CC? Tonight would have been perfect for Campaign. This is the kind of game where his scrappiness would have annoyed the shit out of a young Rocket squad and made them make mistakes. I'll say this, Jalen Brunson, I do not believe he would have played the entire second half if Campaign was healthy. I think Campaign would have gotten in there for 2-3 minutes. Look, this may be stretching it, and if it's reaching, call bullshit. Like, physical fatigue is the thing everybody pays attention to with minutes. I do think, mental fatigue is kind of a thing, too. It's been a while since Brunson had to go out there and play a bunch of minutes in a row. So I think if Campaign was able to come in and just sop up a couple minutes and make some stuff happen, get under people's skin, maybe make it 3, that's why I think the Huck Porty for Sims switch, if I had to bet on it, I would bet on that happening way before Kolek for Payne. I think Kolek's, I think it's going to be a while for that one. But we shall see. OG, 44.8% on threes so far this year, and that's the whole season. And he started off cold. So credit to him for really rebounding. Will Oliver, giving it a month, but frustrating. We beat ourselves. No, I can't go that far. The Rockets beat the Knicks tonight. Duh. But give that team credit. That's a good basketball team. That is a team that should be over 500 this year in a brutal conference. A brutal conference. They are well coached. They have talent. They have guys who could score. They have guys who could defend. They play well together. They know what they're supposed to do. They have different guys that could beat you on any given night. Like Jalen Green was anonymous for the most part. I know he had some big shots, but they're not quite there yet because they haven't put it all together, and they're still kind of tinkering, and it doesn't really feel like they have that guy, like the main guy, but and they have young players still figuring it out. That's a good team. Could the Knicks have beat them? Yes. Did the Knicks beat themselves a little bit? Yes. But I can't just look at this and be like the Knicks beat themselves tonight. That's a little bit too far for me to go. I want to give the Rockets some real credit for this. Thanks, Will. Jason M. What's going on, Jason? Kolek should have played more than 5 minutes. It's only game 6. This is not sustainable. Tibbs is using a playoff rotation. The front office needs to step in. How? I mean, you're going to tell Tibbs who to play? Good luck. Man's paid to win basketball games. He does what he thinks he has to do. And he pushes his guys as hard as he thinks they can be pushed. I don't know. I think it's just the injuries more than anything else. I really just don't know what else there is. I mean, I think it's on. They have to get their guys healthy. You know, it's really what it comes down to. They have to get their guys healthy. I agree with you. It's not sustainable. I agree doing it in game 6 is a little silly. You had the game right there. It's a 1-possession game, fourth quarter. Went for the win. Didn't get it. If they won the game, I'm sure there would be some people complaining. I'm not going to be like, oh, if they won, nobody would be saying anything. No, that's not true. But, is what it is. Drew P. What's going on, Drew? Mitch Precious solves a lot of problems. Currently, no backup 4. I mean, I don't. Well, let me keep going. Sims minutes, the rebounds, defense, and starter minutes. Mitch feels necessary for elite scoring centers. The thing is, there's like not that many of those guys out there. And if he's out there, then you have a lot more trouble taking advantage of the defense, especially if Josh Hart is out there as well, because all the little stuff that Josh Hart's doing, if Mitch is out there, it doesn't work as well. And if Mitch is doing it, then somebody's ignoring Josh Hart. It's like you could get away with it with Hardenstein because Hardenstein was so skilled. So that's why Hardenstein and Josh Hart were able to work together. I can't. I guess the biggest thing that I'm in just a very different state of mind from a lot of people who are saying like, oh, wait till Mitch gets back. He's gonna. I do not see that as a panacea for. I don't even want to say what ails this team for like the issues that they're. I think time will solve a lot of their problems. If we're sitting here in January and we're still talking about, oh, just wait till Mitch comes back, it's gonna then that's a really big fucking problem. Hell, if we're saying that in December, mid-late December, that's a big problem. And I do not think that we are going to be saying it, to be very clear. Thanks, Drew. Kevin with another one. Thank you, Kevin. Very generous tonight. OG, so positives. OG looks great, yes. Cat's rebounding has been fantastic. Yes, Cat might be the number 1 rebounder in the league. I'm going to look it up right now. Let's see here. Since you bring it up. All right, I'll get back to it in a second. Hart is active, involved on both ends. Yes. People in the chat shitting on JB. Go root for the Nets. It's okay to be critical of Jalen Brunson. It is. It's totally fine. When a guy plays poorly, it's okay to say he plays poorly, and he didn't play his best game tonight. It happens. But I think to go, like, if it's anything more than that, if it's anything more than like, hey, this guy could have been a little bit better, like, he has to do better, then it's overkill. Is it overkill tonight? I don't know. I think people are they're frustrated, which you get it. All right, one more super chat, then we're going to do our out-of-town scoreboard, and then a couple more, and then we're getting out of here. Kevin O. Peterson with another one. Next 8, Hawks, Bucks, Pacers, Sixers, Bulls, Nets twice, Wizards. Even with the issues now, this should be 5-3 at worst. The depth is really looking like an issue, especially with Sims. Cannot afford any more injuries. Well, you didn't put more. I added the more to emphasize. Again, I know I keep going like, Mitch is not the panacea. Give me Mitch for 15 minutes a game, and I think it'll help, But he's not coming back anytime soon. I'm not holding my breath for him. Give me Precious and one more, and Payne, and then just like, even if it's Matt Ryan, man, honestly, I'm at the point where I kind of like that his Matt Ryan shooting. I'm pretty sure is real. Like he's been in the league long enough. 3 years. But this is his third year. The shooting is legit. Who do they, pair him with? I mean, if he even plays, do they pair him with someone to try to mitigate the defensive issues? Is it just like we're not playing him against the opposing teams like top lineups? I don't know. But I think that could help. So, okay. Let us do the out-of-town scoreboard. We're going to do that. That is, of course, presented by our friends at T-Squared Social. So you get by the way, free draft beer when you tell them KFS sent you. You can visit tsquaredsocial.com to learn about club memberships, trivia nights, sports leagues, and much more. We are, of course, having a watch party at T-Squared Social this Friday for Knicks Bucks. We will get things going at 6:30. If you haven't already heard it, I'm telling you right now, we are giving away, or actually, Juan, please. Didn't get my can of Juan, please tonight. I was saving it for a win, and they didn't get the win, so I didn't grab one. Juan, please is donating 2 tickets to Knicks Bulls. That game will be on November 13th. The watch party is this Friday, so come to the watch party. Follow Juan, please, in Knicks Film School on Instagram, and you'll be instantly eligible to win those tickets, which we will give out at halftime. I'll be bringing a bunch of KFS hats to give out. Juan, please is giving out some other merch. They're going to be buying people drinks. It's going to be a great atmosphere. There is also a link that we sent out today on Twitter. I'll put in the newsletter. I don't know if we get it in the description of this episode for people to RSVP if they think they're going to be able to make it down. So we're trying to get an idea of how many people might show up. You don't need to RSVP. You can just come. It's absolutely free. So come down to T-Squared Social. All right. Out-of-town scoreboard. Here we go. You ready? Every NBA team played tonight. So we got a lot of scores. So we got Bucks, Cavs. Cavs still undefeated. Beat Milwaukee. Very tight game. Dame went off. He had 36. Unfortunately, Darius Garland a little bit better, 39. Bucks fall to 1-6. The Wizards kept it close, but ultimately lost to the Golden State Warriors, 115-112. Lakers upended in Detroit. Nice win, Pistons. How you doing? Boston smoked Atlanta. Brooklyn upended Memphis. That was another one that was a tight game throughout. Really gritty win by Brooklyn. Brooklyn has been like really decent this year. Like they're a real basketball team, or at least they are right now. Sacramento beat Miami on a last-second shot by Domantas Sabonis. Chicago lost to Utah. Utah, first win of the season without Lauri Markkanen. Of course, Chicago also missing Zach LaVine. Minnesota throttled the Charlotte Hornets. Hornets not looking so hot. Oklahoma City also stays perfect. Them and Cleveland. I'll be curious to see who can keep that going for much longer. Orlando's really reeling without Paolo Banchero. Portland, again, New Orleans is just decimated by injuries. Portland beat them 118-100. And then I just mentioned a few minutes ago, Dallas lost at home to Indiana. There are 2 games still being played, or 3 games being played right now. We have Denver-Toronto. Toronto up in the fourth quarter of that game by 2 points, 2 minutes of change left. Philly and Phoenix is very close in the fourth quarter. And then San Antonio at the Los Angeles Clippers. Okay. Did I get it all in, Kev?
Looking at the box score of that Toronto game, they have a couple guys that we used to know.
Is Quickly back?
Quickly is not back.
Who's the other one then?
You used to have a crow.
I have no idea who you're talking about.
RJ Barrett?
No, but you said a couple of guys.
Yeah, I'm saying Quickly and RJ. But Quickly's not playing, but he's on Toronto.
Oh, yeah, no. I thought that's why I was like a couple of guys. I knew Quickly's not playing.
They just have RJ and 15.
I'm looking at it right now. RJ Barrett, 5 for 19 from the field, 16 points, 9 assists for RJ Barrett, 5 turnovers, not great. So yeah, good job, RJ. But yeah, that game's coming down the wire. We'll see if they can pull it off.
Grady got 26 points.
Notice Grady Dick is a player. Okay. We are gonna finish up. Here we go.
Yes, sir. Last few.
Siri just went rogue on me. I don't know if you heard that. Robert Cross, it's your boy John. I am agitated. Why? Robert, you get a championship contender. You've waited fucking 20 years for this. It's one annoying loss. Come on. I hope you're kidding. I can never tell when you're really kidding or not. Okay. Often I get agitated after losses. That being said, we have Jalen Brunson. Here you go. You were just playing me. Brunson will figure it out. The balance with Cat. Let's go Knicks. There you go. You're not agitated. Come on. Stop it. If you're agitated, that's very silly. Kevin Danishevsky, Precious Achiuwa returns soon. The bench will be Cameron Payne, Matt Ryan, Deuce, and Precious Achiuwa. I would guess so. Yeah. If you were asking me to bet on it right now, I would bet on Matt Ryan getting in the rotation before Pacome Dadier. The question is it going to be a 9-man or an 8-man? I bet you he plays. Ryan. Bet you he plays. We'll see. Thanks, Kev. How does he practice? Robert Cross, first time, long time. It's your boy John. Your point about Mitch is my point. A highly valuable changeup, and I wouldn't underscore the utility in that role. I would love to see him. I would love for him to get the chance. I would love for him to be able to put on the uniform one more time and to prove to the Knicks, prove to this franchise that he has been on for so long that he could still be a contributing, winning player. Oh my God, RJ. And be part of the solution and play not only as a backup center to Towns, but play as a change of pace. With Towns, there's an opportunity here for Mitch to come in and play 20 to 25 minutes a game and be one of the most valuable bench players in the league. There's absolutely a chance for that to happen. Are we going to get there? I don't know. And am I sitting here and relying on that? No, I'm relying on chemistry. I'm relying on time. I'm relying on natural growth. I am wondering if there's maybe a different move that they could make that would better improve the team. I can't sit here and tell you what that move is. So the answer right now is no. Thanks, Robert. Hayden Freed. I wonder if Fred VanVleet averages his most points per game versus us. So, VanVleet tonight, tonight he was shooting the freaking lights out of the ball. VanVleet had 19 points on 13 shots. So actually 19 points is not all that much. But I'll give you, if you give me half a second, I'm going to look this up. Why don't you get the next super chat up and then I will go from there. So next up. Whenever you're ready, Kev. VanVleet, by the way, career average against the Knicks is, I got it right here, 16 points, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's actually better than most other teams. It's in the top third, let's just say that, in terms of his opponents all time. And he shot for his career against the Knicks. True shooting percentage is what I'm looking at here. 599 against the Knicks. The only teams that he has a better true shooting percentage against are the Jazz, the Raptors, the Kings, the Grizzlies, the Nuggets, and that's it. So there's only 6 teams in Fred VanVleet's career that he has a better true shooting percentage against than the Knicks. Oh, and that was the last super chat. So there you go. Okay. Good stuff. Again, frustrating night. Lots to complain about. All worth complaining about. All worth being frustrated about. And all stuff that can, and I will be so bold as to predict, will continue to improve with time. Every game for this team right now is an opportunity to get a little bit better and get a little bit cleaner on both ends. So that journey continues in Atlanta. One more soup just came up. Since 2020, Van Fleet has averaged 25 versus us, 19 versus the rest of the league. Well, there you go. And he shot the lights out. Yeah, ever since he didn't come to us in free agency, although I don't know whether that was ever even in the cards. Okay. Thanks for tuning into the video. If you dig it, you know what to do. Support the Knicks Film School podcast or YouTube channel in any way that you can. We love the super chats. I appreciate the generosity of people, but even something as small as a like or a 5-star rating goes a long way for us. And then last but not least, if you're in the New York area, come out to T-Squared Social on Friday to watch the Bucks game with us. We're going to have a great time. Again, giving away Knicks tickets, courtesy of Juan, please. So hopefully see everybody there. Then this has been the Knicks Film School postgame show powered by BetUS.